This is the Conservation Commission meeting on Wednesday, July 12th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And our first hearing is 7 p.m. The enforcement order from the VFW, the update. So, Mary, do we have someone from the VFW here?
Yes, Steve Saucier is here. And Steve, would you like to give an update of how things are going?
Okay, well, we did get that pile that was in the middle of the not a parking lot, but the area that we leveled. That's all out of there. The stones are all lined up along the edge. And then we put up a fence to, it seems to be doing the job for now. And that's about it.
How about the grass?
Oh, the grass that they seeded and it's been growing, so.
Excellent.
Well, the slope, no, you haven't seeded the top yet, right?
No, we're not going to touch that just yet until we get another meeting and we figure out what we're going to do with it. Okay. We do want to seed it, but we may be figuring out about getting some topsoil or something. Not sure yet.
So, Mary, what's your thoughts on this?
All right, so I think that the remaining items were some kind of bounds or signage. And there is a fence, but yeah, I mean, we could put some kind of, I mean, we have signage, but it's meant to go on top of a bound. I don't think it would be very easy to hang it on a fence. So I guess the question is, would you guys be okay with some bounds being installed, or maybe we come up with an alternative sign for the fence?
Well, the only thing I could think of would be get a fence that posts, do not throw trash over and stuff like that. No trash past this point, or no refuse.
Right. So I think we would want something that would say wetland resource area, no disturb, no dumping.
Okay.
No trash, no brush or whatever.
All right, we can figure that out.
Yeah.
We can get that.
Do you have comments from the question?
Just no dumping covers it all, doesn't it?
I think you would want something about being a wetland resource area, though.
Oh, I meant instead of saying trash, refuse, grass cutting, just no dumping. Yeah, it needs to be identified.
Mm-hmm. And do we have any comments from the audience? Now, Mary, would you envision this being continued until after the next meeting of the VFW?
Yeah, do you think you're going to be ready to make a decision at your next meeting, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay. At the moment, seeding could actually still happen because we're getting a lot of rain.
Mm-hmm.
If it dries out, you may end up having to wait till fall.
Uh-huh.
But sure. So when's your next meeting?
Next meeting would be the first Wednesday of August, which should be August. I'm not sure from here. I think it's August 2nd, maybe.
Okay.
August would be the first Wednesday of the month. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Right. So we would meet the next Wednesday, the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can, well, I don't know why the mouse is not working. Yeah, that meeting would be a good meeting for you to be on, and by then you should, then you can give us an update. If you want to go ahead and work on getting signs ordered, why don't you just send me an email of the text you plan on doing, and I don't know whether we want, the fence runs, I haven't looked at it, but I probably want two of them, one kind of, close to either end.
Yep.
And maybe they should be, they shouldn't be super small. They wouldn't have to be huge though, but, maybe at least, I don't know.
1 by 2.
Yeah, they could be smaller than that, I think, but not super small.
All right.
This is Mike. There's a sign company in Milford who have made some signs for both the Conservation Commission and Metacomet Land Trust. For about $30, you can have them do a custom sign for you.
Okay.
I think that's Signs Plus.
Signs Plus, yeah, I believe that's who they are.
Signs
They're
Plus
really,
in Milford.
they're good to work with.
Right.
Yeah, they're in Milford.
All right. Thank you.
And would be good to continue your hearing to August 9th at 7
All right.
p.m.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I'm good to go.
Yeah, I think so. And
All right.
I'll try to get over there to get some pictures of the fence and the grass at some point.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, now we have some time before our next hearing, our discussion. So how about if we go to our administrator's report? Excuse me, our administrator's report.
Yeah, so I've been out to several properties. 126 Elm Street, they're actively working now. And maybe I'll pull up the report for that.
I'm sorry I dropped out there before. I don't know. I usually don't have a problem with Teams, but it's all glitchy.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm having a trouble too. My mouse will not work in Teams. It only works outside of Teams. I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
I may see if my husband can come down and help me. If someone else has the agent report handy that they could share their screen. Meanwhile, I'll text my husband for support here. Next week, our next meeting, we may get Zoom, which would be good.
Excellent.
It is not allowing me to share my screen as well.
I don't know what is going on. Like I can't share. I couldn't start the recording either.
I vote for Zoom as well.
Don't blame your cat, Mary.
I know. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the cat. Oh, you got it? Was that you, Grace? I can't. The mouse is not working in Teams. All right. So whoever's sharing the screen, if you can go down to. The mouse isn't working in Teams. Like it works out of Teams, but it doesn't work in Teams. Down.
Okay, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see my screen moving?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I have it up, Mary. But I can't hear you. Mary, are you muted? Or
Mike, I can hear you, and I can hear Grace and Sandy and David.
Mary is muted. Mary is muted.
I think she was looking for her husband to help. Can we skip over the administrator's report and go over to the administrator's
Okay, I
report?
know I'm here now. Sorry.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so there's a few pictures of 126 Elm on the first page, but it goes on, somehow I messed up in my report. It's a couple pages down. There's more pictures after Five Fork Farm. There's a few more. Okay. So at any rate, they went ahead and put in part of the restoration area that was required. Yeah, keep going past 5 Fork. There we go. There's more 126 Elm. So they had, if you remember, like the top picture is kind of before, and then the bottom picture is after. So there was all sorts of rocks and debris, and it was just kind of a mess. So he did clean all the rocks out, and this is all in the 30-foot no disturb, because they had been blasting and just dumping stuff everywhere. So he cleaned all the debris out. It looks pretty good. He may not have put exactly the right number of plantings in, but the plantings that are there are good. And I believe it's seeded. And so I was pleased with how that was going. And he had said he wasn't going to put them in till the fall, but I guess he looked at the weather report and decided to go ahead. So that's how 126 Elm is doing. Five Forks Farm, they're very busy. It looks like they're having a little bit of trouble with water. They started digging the irrigation pond and are trying to dewater it so they can work in there. So they have a pretty long hose going from the irrigation area that goes way down couple hundred feet into a depression, and it's where it ends up is the next slide down, like into or up, I guess, the other direction. Anyway, they're sending water into there. Yeah, here's this bottom picture. There is the site of the irrigation pond, and it's, very full. So I don't think he's really able to work in there right now. He's trying to do, when this was a couple, right after I got back. So 10 days ago, before our most recent rain event. And they have a road, and this picture at the bottom of the screen there is their access road goes pretty near the old irrigation pond, but there doesn't seem to be issues with that. And then I guess my final kind of thought or concern, it's not a super big concern, but maybe I think we might need to ask him to put a few more erosion controls in. The pictures towards the bottom, he has erosion controls going around most of that field, but he's working, pretty much the whole field. And so there's one section where he could maybe add another, 50 feet to kind of keep everything safe. He's been really good. Like, you go around the whole perimeter of everywhere he's disturbed, he's always got everything kind of dug out, and the earth itself is acting as controls. And he has a lot of little ponds that he's dug to kind of catch water where he sees it going. So it seems like he's doing a good job, but it is a huge disturbance. So. And then I don't know if he's been working recently. He certainly has all his equipment there.
Mary, I drove by there a couple times today, and they were working on the pond. Mm-hmm. It's dug out quite a bit.
Yeah, so it seems to be okay, I think, but maybe we could ask him to put more erosion controls on the far northwest corner of the field, where he's pretty close to the erosion controls, maybe 20 feet away with his disturbance. There's nothing going over there, but he's close enough. So. All right. Cobbler's Creek, I just called them today. You can see in the report, there's also, I think it's after Five Forks Farm. Yeah, this is that picture there. The top one is the area where the erosion controls are. You can see them, they're kind of in the back of the picture. And you can see the disturbance over there on the left. and, goes slightly downhill to the right, but the wetland is more towards the back. It's not so much to the right. We continue on down past Elm Street. I think we get to Cobbler's Creek. Yeah, there's some improvements there. It's still a little rough in some places, I would say. They did fix, there was a huge gully that they fixed and put wood chips in, but there's still, dirt accumulating along the silt fence and a tree across the silt fence. And so they need to fix it up.
Mary, do they have an erosion control point of contact there, or
yes? So
like a professional?
Yeah, I had that. They met with me before I left, and they were going to fix everything and send me pictures, which they never did. But they never did send me pictures. But I think they were out there and fixed things. But they need to do more. Get back there. I mean, I think this is a site that really could use a monitor once a week. These guys they kind of did the site work, and now they're gone because, he's building houses. So they have to come in special to take a look at it. But they should be doing that.
Do we have a condition that could put a little bit of pressure on them to step up their inspections? Probably worth looking.
I'll check that out. I'll look at the conditions. Yeah, because they really, it seems a little sloppy to me.
Mm-hmm. And this has been going on a while.
Yeah, it's just kind of, yeah. And of course the weather hasn't been in favor of them, but it seems like that's what it's going to be this summer. So. And we can talk about East Street now or later.
No,
Did you say now, Chris?
sure. We have about 5 minutes.
Great. Well, here's the progress at East Street. I did go out there to look at the site to make sure that at least he was, there were no erosion issues. And it seems like everything's pretty much okay. The erosion controls are in good shape. There's nothing up against them. And yeah, you can leave that up, Mike, because that'll be for 343 Mendon, which is next. And if you look I did look briefly all the area around the site just to see if, Mia said, oh, check for wetland violations. And they are working just within their work area. And but if you look around the house area, there's no wetlands close by that it's obvious. So I did talk to Valentine today. He filed an appeal. He believes, is his opinion that, not only was there we have a procedural error on our part where we did not, we submitted the ad to the newspaper, but it never got published somehow. So we have the proof that we submitted it. But if you search the newspaper records, there's no evidence that it was published. And this all happened during the time when there was no Dave and there was no Trish, and you guys were trying to make do. So I think it's an understandable issue. So Valentine, he's concerned about that, but he's also completely convinced that, the house itself is being built on wetland, and that's part of his appeal. So I think it's excellent that the Ecotech did an evaluation of the site, and DEP has that evaluation. And I think the person Valentine, he's planning on hiring his own wetland scientist and hydrologist, and he's that's his prerogative. And if he wants to do that, that's fine. So,
Mary, I have a question about that. Can the owner 24, exclude Valentine's consultant?
Oh yeah, I think he could. That's actually a really good point. He would have to get permission, I would think, to access the property.
So you might let him know that.
Yeah.
Even the commission doesn't really have access right now because we don't have an order. Right,
No.
there's not an order of conditions.
Right.
Right. No, that's a good question. On a determination. Yeah. Well, I have in the determination that I inspect the erosion controls. So, but yeah, that's a little different than maybe looking for wetlands.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay. But I agree, Mary, that we're lucky we ended up having Ecotech take a look at it. Hopefully the DEP will just look at the paper trail. There's also the owner's consultant. I can't remember his name now. He also did some work out there.
Yes.
So, and there may, it's a very long, narrow lot, way in the back.
Yeah, there is.
There are wetlands, but they're way back from, long distance from the work.
I think it's 300 feet. Yeah. So that's kind of the status. There's a little bit of we're getting mixed opinions in town hall as to what we should do. Mike Antonellis was suggesting that we just wait till DEP acts, but we could also go ahead and just redo the hearing so that the procedural error is corrected. And Joe Layden, he's fine with that. Mike Antonellis would prefer that we wait. Of course, it's up to us. Mike actually did reach out to legal counsel review for this, and the legal opinion was we could do either, but maybe it would be prudent to wait to see what DEP does. But we really could do either in this situation.
I would think we should wait until we hear from the DEP, because then we can use their information when we have the RDA for the location and put that into our file.
Yeah.
Do you have any other comments? So let's, for the commission, so is our opinion to wait until we hear from the DEP and then move forward ourselves with doing another hearing for the RDA?
I think we should just wait till we hear back from the DEP.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what we're waiting to hear from is if his appeal has standing. If they decide it does have standing, it'll take them like 6 months to deal with it, and that may just cause us more. Because unfortunately, Valentine he's wanting us to stop work on this project because of this, and I don't think that's appropriate. But that's what he's angling for.
Well, I don't think we have the ability to stop the work because it's not a wetland lot where the work is being done. So right. I would think that code would be the ones who have to stop the work.
Yeah. And they won't do it.
Does he know that?
Mary, do you need a motion or opinion from the commission? The commission recommends not issuing that we recommend not issuing a stop work order, just to back you up.
I think that would be helpful. The commission recommends not issuing, and that if you want to wait for the DEP decision on the standing, that's a good idea.
So I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, now that's a two-part motion. So the first part was for us to wait until we hear from the DEP. And so let's do that part first. So, Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Mike, aye.
David, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Is Sandy still there?
Yes, she is, but she's muted, so.
So that's a majority of the members present.
Sandy, aye. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I lost my screen for a minute.
Okay, it's a consensus of the commission to not move forward with 1224 East Street until the DEP's appeal is done. And the second part was for the commission not to have a sub work order on the property. So we have a motion.
I think I made the motion, Chris.
Yeah, the motion was made.
Okay, Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
David, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
A unanimous vote of the commission. So Mary, does that help you with the things that you need to
Yes.
have done?
Yep. I'll certainly let him know to be getting the owner's permission before he gets any studies done. So.
Okay. Okay, now it's time for our 725. It was 345-3 Mendon Street enforcement order.
Yeah, and I believe Matthew is here.
Yes, I am.
I was at the site yesterday, and you can see the pictures up there. The top picture shows the embankment, and this picture, he's got it, pretty well smoothed out, a few wood chips and seeded. And then the bottom picture is the left, kind of the other side of the embankment, which still needs some work. He needs to get this, flat, smooth it out, and get rid of rocks and still do work on that side. So it's still a work in progress, but it is coming along. We did discover the bottom picture there. There was on the, I guess that would be the northernmost part of the fill. There was an area where a little bit of a gully formed in some of the rains. And so a little bit of silt did get down into the wetland. It's about, that picture there, the bottom one. It's about, I would say it looked like it was about an inch deep. It's not very deep, and it covered maybe, 25 square feet of area. So Matt, we discussed ways that he could kind of prevent any future sedimentation there. So the erosion controls actually did not cover that section. So he's going to extend them and do a couple layers because there's a path there. And then on the top, he was going to try to create a little bit of a berm to prevent future water from flowing down there. But that's something that's going to need to be monitored. I did call Mia from DEP and, told her about our discussions and how we'd like to see the vernal pool certified and how we've dealt with the fill. And Mia basically said everything that we've been saying, that, we certainly could have, in the front area where the fill is, we could have asked him to remove the fill. We could have asked him to hire an engineer to get it all planned out. We could have, asked him to file a notice of intent. There's several approaches we could have done there. But she also said that for the rear of the property, because it does not have, she concurred that there's no real protection for it, and we can't require him to get it certified without his permission. So she just kind of restated what we had been thinking about and working with. And in terms of the vernal pool, you can see the bottom picture there. Matt and I did talk about the fact there's a little bit of erosion going into it. And in this situation, since it's not really regulated, we can give him suggestions, but he wouldn't necessarily be required to do them. So we talked about maybe some jute net on there. He wants to put, because there's I guess I didn't get a picture of it, a little further up, there's kind of a road crossing. He wants to put riprap in that road crossing area to make it more firm and to kind of prevent that gullying from happening, and maybe bring the riprap down closer to the water.
you come to my bike.
And we saw a ton of frogs just standing there for 10 minutes or whatever. Every time you moved, there were frogs jumping in the water.
What kind of frogs, Mary?
I don't know. I heard, what are the ones that sound like rubber bands? I don't know what, I'm not very, those you could hear them around the edge of the pond, the rubber band ones. Kind of go twang. The only frog call I know is wood frogs, so I didn't hear wood frogs.
Not their time of year. Well, I would just say, Matt, just because it doesn't have protection under the regulations doesn't mean it doesn't have value as a resource area. So we'd appreciate it if you respect the area in the future. That's all.
Obviously, yep, of course.
Thank you.
And we did talk about about what the next steps were. In terms of lifting the enforcement order, we're not really ready to do that because there's a fair bit of work in front to do to, still bring it into stabilization and stuff like that. But maybe we want to set, after the board, considers, what the words that the state has said. But in terms of resolving the front part, I think we would want to, set them for a fall meeting date to kind of see how everything's stabilized and how things are looking by then. Or, like September or something.
So we'll check back in September?
Yeah, the board may have other comments, though.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a fine idea. September.
So Mary, did we give him suggestions about planting on that slope already, or?
No, yeah, we should. We could. Yeah, no, I don't think we've given him anything specific on plantings on the slope. There, he did see. What did you seed it with, Matthew?
I seeded it with clover and pasture mix.
Clover's a good choice this late in the season. It can germinate when it's warm.
Yeah, it's coming up all right. I'm gonna reseed it again though.
Dave, were you thinking of some kind of plantings along the top, or you were thinking more of the seed mix?
Both, but I mean, sounds like if the clover's a good choice, then yeah.
Yeah.
So did we want to continue this for our next meeting?
Don't see any real need to.
Is there any way we can put this off till, what did Mary suggest? September?
Yeah, I think we can choose a September
Put it on
meeting for it.
hold.
Okay.
Maybe the 13th.
Okay. How about at 7:25 again? Does that sound good, Matt?
Yes, that sounds good. Yep.
So any other questions or comments about 343 Mendon Street? Hearing none, we'll hear back from you in September. Okay, so at this point, we should probably go back to Mary's report, because I don't think we finished it. Administrator's report.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. We've been back and forth about the Dean Pond deed. I've been back and forth with a lawyer on that, and he's going to get me the final documentation probably tomorrow. So there's 2 pieces that need to be signed. And so we'll have it with Denise in town hall next week. And with the exception of Chris, does everyone else think they can get in to sign it?
When would you
sure.
sign?
Well, we don't need it to be signed because the Board of Selectmen need to sign it too, and they're going to try to do it at their next meeting, which is the 25th. So if everybody can kind of get in there and get it signed before the 25th, and if someone wants to bring it to Chris and have her sign it, that's fine.
Well, I'll be able to be there anytime after July 18th.
Okay. So
I could get the town hall and sign it.
Yes. And then I drafted the order for the Robertson CR, and I can't remember if I included it in the packet. I have a bad feeling that I didn't, but I did email it out this afternoon. And the main points that are different from our standard order is I thought we would probably drop the requirement to have as-built done. That seems a little unnecessary unless you guys want it. And then I didn't see any need for any continuing conditions on it. The 2 conditions that are new and different that need to happen are that the commission will request an amendment once the plans for the bridge are complete. So we'll have a hearing on the plans for the bridge, and that no work can be done on the bridge until this has happened. And the other condition is that the boardwalks will be supported by helical piles or native local rock from on site. And then the other conditions that we need to include are the natural heritage conditions. And those conditions are that the installation and trail maintenance shall only occur from October 15th to April 15th of any year. And we have to pay attention to materials delivery as well. And they also want to see the final plan before any work started. So if there's any other conditions that you think I'm missing, let me know.
Any questions or comments about the conditions? Mary, when would you want to have people give you any additional conditions?
Technically we're supposed to have the order out 21 days after we issued it. So it's already been a month, but so
let's
We're
do
going to be
that.
appealing this to DEP, by the way, Mary, just so you know.
You're going to appeal it?
It's a joke, everybody.
Well, with the holiday and everything, I think we could get a pass on.
Yeah.
But it's probably fine.
So how about if we get any additional or conditions to Mary within a week?
That sounds good.
Okay, perfect. We work well with timelines. And is there anything else for your report, Mary?
We will be having a notice of intent at our next meeting, 144 West River. And he had really wanted to be on this meeting, but it didn't happen with me being on vacation. And I convinced him that this was better anyway, because then he'll have his DEP number, et cetera, et cetera. So that, he will be on next meeting though, and is hoping to get through in one meeting, but we'll see. I think it's fairly reasonable project, but
Good job.
I'll have to look at that. Yeah. And then there's a few things that I put at the very end of the packet that are complaints that we can consider now or later. We might want to put them in the look at the packet. I wonder if I can share my screen now. Nope, it's still not working. That's so weird. Oh, and another thing we need to look at, but that's under new items, is the update the bylaw. So we can go along with whatever's next, Chris.
Okay, so updating the bylaw regarding a butter notification for RDAs.
Hey, so sometimes it takes someone who really likes to dig into things to find out inconsistencies. And the gentleman at 26 East Street, Valentine, found out that our bylaw says that for a determination, we're supposed to notify abutters. In the regs, we said we don't have to. So I think the consensus is the regs are the final word on it, but because Valentine brought this up and Joe Layden agrees we should probably amend the bylaw so that it's consistent with the regs. So I did, it's pretty simple to do that. It only requires changing a few sentences, and there is a draft in the packet way down at the bottom.
Do we need to hold a public?
Yeah, so we would. Oh, yeah, we might need to hold a public hearing to do that, and it needs to go before town meeting. So maybe, yeah, we need to advertise this.
Right.
The other thing is, if there's anything else in the bylaws that needs to be tweaked, this is the time to do it, since we're going through all the effort of a hearing and a town meeting vote.
The only other thing I had a question about, which came up because as I was reading it carefully too, is I noticed that one thing that's different from the Wetlands Protection Act is for for a determination under the Wetlands Protection Act, you only have to hold a public meeting instead of a public hearing. And I noticed that your bylaw says public hearing for everything. And maybe that's what you want, public hearing for everything. I don't know if that was intended or that's just what happened when the bylaw was put in place. And if you don't know the difference between a public hearing and a public meeting, I can explain what it means, but it is slightly different, and it affects the way we type up I noticed it because I noticed in the legal ads, you guys everything was always public hearing for this, public hearing for that, and usually under determinations, you would say, oh, public meeting, if it was going to actually be a public meeting.
Public meeting is a whole lot simpler.
Yeah, the public meeting, it means that you don't have to, if you don't, the chairman wouldn't have to recognize the public. They can, but they don't have to recognize the public under a determination hearing.
And it doesn't have to be advertised either, does it?
No, it does have to. It still has to be advertised, though.
Oh, I thought it just had to be posted.
Oh, I think it still has to be advertised.
Oh, okay. Well, I've held a public meeting.
Oh, really?
And was told that all I needed to do is post it. It did not need to be advertised.
Oh, I should research that.
And maybe I just had a bad meeting. Yeah, it's confusing because I asked a lot of different people, and I read stuff on the state website, and it seemed like public meeting is simply a meeting where actually what I understood was that the public must be recognized at a public meeting. It's at a regularly posted meeting that the public does not need to be recognized. So this meeting we're having now, we don't have to recognize the public, but if it's a public meeting, posted as a public meeting, we are obliged to recognize the public. And we don't have to advertise it. Whereas a public hearing is advertised and the public is expected to be able to participate. So that's what I thought the difference was. It's probably worth confirming that.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I'm wondering if my confusion is that under the Wetlands Protection Act, even though a determination just has a public meeting, that you may still have to advertise it, under the Wetlands Protection Act, but a regular public meeting, you might not have to. I wonder if that's the difference.
Entirely possible.
So
I think to minimize confusion, we should keep it that everything gets advertised and talked at the meetings, because we don't want to have what's going on at 24 East Street occur again, because we're doing a different rules.
So everything's a public hearing. That makes sense.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I think backing up just a minute, I don't think we were really doing anything wrong. I understand maybe the bylaw needs to be tweaked, but if you look at that first paragraph, you can see the screen, everybody? Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it says, this is the section that talks about determinations. The commission shall have the discretion to waive any of the above notification requirements. And that's what we did in our regulations. Since 2009, I looked at both the first version of the regulations and the second. Since 2009, at least since then, we have not been requiring, a notification for request for the bylaw. So, we can discuss whether or not we want to do that maybe when we get to the point of having this hearing on modifying the bylaw. But I just want to make the point that even though Valentine, has a problem with this, I really don't think we've been doing anything wrong. I think this gives us the authority to set up the regs like we set them up. And I can find that too. Just hold on. It's in the regs somewhere.
I'm just in favor of keeping it as simple as possible, and having to advertise, and it just adds one more step to the process that's already complicated.
I just think we should keep it consistent so there's no confusion.
I know, and Mike, you had sent it to me in an email with it nicely highlighted.
Yeah.
And I did not put that version in.
That's no problem.
It was pretty close to the beginning, I feel like, but.
For God's sakes.
Oh, I think maybe it's under filing procedure. No.
Here, somewhere.
Yeah. Any person, blah, blah, blah.
It's right. It's the last sentence of a paragraph. That's what I remember.
Yeah, it's under filing procedure. So right above number 3, public hearing. The commission does not currently require a butter for notification for the filing in an RDA.
It's right here. Yeah. So, anyway, I just wanted to point that out. That if we get in an argument with anybody, I definitely think we can tweak the bylaw, but if we get in an argument with anybody, we haven't really been doing this wrong for 15 years. So,
when I mentioned the waive, to waive it with Mia, what it made her think of, and maybe it's not what is intended by the bylaw, is it made her think that every time someone submitted a determination application that they would need to request a waiver officially and have the commission vote on it. And she's like, well, that's really clunky. And so, and maybe that's not what it meant. That was her interpretation of that.
I agree with that, and that's why I think we should tweak it. I agree with tweaking the bylaw. But I think you can make the case that, especially since the way the regs are written, that we haven't been doing anything wrong.
Right.
So, anyway.
So, do we have any other comments or questions about the bylaw or tweaking the bylaw? And should we put that on our next meeting as an ongoing item?
Well, if we're going to do a public, so I guess we might not be ready. Do we think we're ready to actually hold the public hearing? Because you would want to have like a draft that we agree on. So maybe for the next meeting, we come up with a draft that we like.
Yeah, maybe people could look through the bylaw, and if they see anything else that they would like change, we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay.
When does the warrant open for the next town meeting?
Well, I think Joe usually emails everyone, and we haven't seen anything yet, but I can ask him. I will ask Joe.
It comes up fast, so we should just be ready something to submit by the deadline.
During planning board this week, someone had mentioned that they thought it was already closed.
I don't think it even opened.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, this is for November. I think but maybe I'm missing something. It wouldn't surprise me.
It'll be soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it's open yet.
So reviewing the bylaw and suggesting any other changes would be a good new item for the next meeting. So anything else about the bylaw? Okay, Mary, anything else from your report?
Yeah, we can talk about the 2 complaints, which are in the packet below the bylaw, I believe. There's some near map images. All right, yeah, there we go. So this is in North Upton. The town line with Westboro is right here. This is Lackey Street, which is a paper street, but there's also a trail on there. And this property, over the past 3 or 4 years, it was mainly forested. They've cleared pretty much everything, and it's hard to tell if it's just dirt or if, in my sense, it's just dirt, that there's nothing planted there. People have been complaining who walk the trail, saying they took all the tree, like the root balls, and put them all along the trail, and it's a safety hazard. I'm not sure that that's a Concom issue, and I haven't looked at the stormwater bylaw carefully, but I believe this amount of clearing, we could say that was a lot of work without a permit, because I think I measured it, the top picture. I think it's well over, I think it's about 2 acres of land that they cleared. So whatever the 230 square feet is kind of the area that I blocked out in blue that looked like it was cleared.
Yeah, Bill and I have walked that trail, and they have like taken all the flash and like made huge piles of it. It doesn't interfere with the trail, but it blocks your view of the property into that cleared area. So, you know, I don't know. As far as I can tell, it's just fine for erosion control, but it's weird looking. And it seems like they have a horse, you know, I don't know if there are people in that area who have horses, and I was guessing that was why they were clearing all this areas to have a riding.
Okay.
Bill, do you know any more than I do?
No, the only other thing I would point out is that if Lackey, so part of Lackey Road may be actually at this point, owned by those people who basically have put up the Great Wall of Stump. But Marcella's comments are correct.
So the road may have been discontinued, and so the property owners on either side would own half of it. So they may have just done that to kind of state their case.
And the land underneath the house on the right is state forest land.
Yeah, so if the complaint should go to anyone, you know, as far as the trail and the forest land goes, DCR might be the ones to notify.
I know.
Okay. But how would we confirm that the clearing is in violation? Is that
well, let me look carefully at this. The stormwater bylaw is pretty stringent. Basically, any kind of clearing that's more than, I believe it's 5,000 square feet, we ask for a permit for. So this is clearly in excess of that. I don't know that, you know, we haven't been enforcing it very strictly. And I don't know whether, I mean, we have the complaint about the tree stumps, which isn't, it seems like, you know, if they had altered the drainage and it was going onto somebody else's yard, and so I'm not sure really how to approach it. If they've just cleared it, you know, we could ask them to get a permit just to kind of check it out and see how things are working in terms of the drainage, but.
Okay. If they haven't done anything illegal, I just want to confirm that they've done something they shouldn't have done before we start bothering them.
Right. So under the stormwater bylaw, you know, clearing vegetation from an area requires them to report it to us at least, and get like a minor permit. For example, we have a bunch of houses going up where they do clearing, and it's not in a wetland area, but I do an erosion control inspection, and they just submit their plans. And it kind of makes sense for a house going up, because they have to come up with a plot plan anyway for the building department, and it's not that much more for them to add the erosion controls and do the inspection. But for these people to get a plot plan, I mean, they could hand sketch one, and I don't know that erosion controls are necessary here, but that's kind of the idea, is to contain any erosion.
We're getting some weird noises happening.
Yes.
Is it Sandy? Is there something? That's better.
I'm muted and I don't hear anything.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid it might be Chris's line, and I wouldn't want to ask her to mute in case she couldn't unmute.
But I can hear that sound too. So I'm going to log off and log back on.
Okay.
There's a storm going by, isn't there?
It's not, I can hear it when your little light comes on when the noise is on, Sandy. Yeah, I'm not hearing it now that you're muted.
I thought I was muted the whole time, so.
I'm hearing it now that you're unmuted. So there's something going on. But that's...
The birds are singing. All right, I'll mute.
Is Chris off now? Did she really leave us?
She was going to sign in again, I believe.
For once, I don't think it was a Chris thing. But anyway, do we just send them a note saying, hey, you know, we just need to know what you're doing and you need to let us know, or need to submit something to tell us that you have already cut all this? Or
yeah, I can what I'll do is I can draft something and I'll just reread that stormwater bylaw very carefully before I send anything out. But I believe it's pretty restrictive. There's a lot of things we could be stopping that we're not. But this may, it is a size of which that we may want to step in. But on the other hand, we might not want to bother these people either. I don't know.
I mean, what can we at this point? The work has been done. It's not like we can ask them not to do it.
Right. Well, they haven't cleared all the way to the edge of the forest. I guess they could still clear more. They haven't cleared their whole lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, another option may be they need to do some grading.
Right.
So that water's not leaving the property. That's all. Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary, how much area do you think that is?
I think it's the blue area that I outlined, I think is about 2 acres.
Wow.
So it's not small.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
No other board would be involved with something like this?
Well, the way our stormwater bylaw is set up, we're reviewing it. So,
it's us. All
it's
right.
us.
Well, I guess we better do something. Looks big.
Yeah. I'll check that out more. This is one of those ones that Amy said this morning, Mary, these people are bugging me about it. And I didn't really have time to look into it. So I'll do more research on it.
Okay, thanks.
And then the next one, Mike, is a few more down. There's another complaint, which this one's a little bit more minor, and I'm not sure that we want to get involved with it. Okay, yeah, so the bottom picture shows the current situation. And Mike, if you can point with your cursor, so there's a little brown area to the house, next to the house that's most on the right, above it. And that's a cleared area. And you can see that the wetland kind of curves all around that house. The brown patch in the middle. And so that patch is from this March, I believe. And then in the slide above, you see the same house and there's trees all back there. So basically the neighbor called, not that, just down one. I don't know if it maybe it's hard to get that picture.
Yeah, I'm having trouble moving it so you can see it. But I'm trying.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, now you can kind of see. At any rate, there were trees in there, and they cut a bunch of trees. I'm not sure they were not in the wetland. They're probably within the 100 buffer, but maybe not. I don't know whether they were 50 feet. I'm not sure. But this happened 3 years ago. It didn't happen recently. And the neighbors it seems like they came up with their list of things that they wanted to complain about. And that was one of them. And the more serious complaint was an in-law apartment that's not permitted. So I don't know if the commission wants to bother them with the trees or not, but I can look into it.
I'm not really clear about where the tree. I mean, so the wetland extends along the, sort of curves from the top of this image to the right. Is that where it looks like there's a lot of dead trees? Is that the wetland?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the wetland. And then if you see in the picture that Mike has in the middle now, there's a kind of an open brown area.
Okay.
Right. And that area, there used to be mostly trees in that area, and they cut, I don't know how many out.
So the complaint is that they cut too close to the wetland?
The complaint is that they cut trees without getting a permit from us, and yeah, too close to the wetland, I guess. And they were using, within 200 feet, and I don't think they realized that it's 100 feet. So, and I don't think it was right in the wetland or right next to it.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're in violation of cutting too close to the wetland. So I don't know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, just with the. It seems like our general practice on trees is, unless there's a lot, usually you guys would want me to go out there and look at it and just kind of check it out before they pull them down. But there's no really formal process, unless like we did with the Hopkinton Road guy, because he had a ton of trees. Then we would ask them to get a permit.
Mm-hmm.
So we could just send a letter. I know we could just send a friendly letter, say, it was noted that trees were removed on your property. Typically just please call our office before you do that. That could maybe be a simple way to do that. You have wetlands in your area, not ask them to get a permit later, but just informing them.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. And did the complaint mention how many trees were taken down? And if they were all healthy and living and mature, or?
They did send a picture, but the picture wasn't very good. Okay. No, not just trees.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to send them a note, and that way we can say we've addressed it to the best of our.
Yeah.
Does it seem like it's a neighbor dispute if they've got other complaints against this household? Is there?
Yeah, I mean, the police are involved now, so that, anytime the one person complains, we have to send a notice to the police as well. So there's obviously some just issues there.
Okay. I don't want to get in the middle of a personal.
Yeah, Mary. So when you talk about why are the police? Well,
the one person I think
police needed because of the people with possible violations, or I'm trying to say is you should be, if you're going to go out here, just be careful.
Yeah, no, I think
maybe not even go out.
Yeah, I was thinking of not going out and just say it was noted that trees were cut, and generally we ask this. We can see it on our aerial imagery or whatever, but yeah, and I think the people who the complaint was against, I think they reached out to the police and said they felt like they were being harassed or whatever. Or what, I don't know. So.
Okay.
Still good to be careful.
Yeah. Agree. But there's no harm in sending a note and acknowledging the complaint.
Yeah.
Any more complaints?
Well, I think that, there was another complaint, but I don't think it involves us. Someone on Dairy Drive was blasting. So I guess it might involve us, but the wetland's on the other side of the house. It's just, so we'll see. Pat was going to go drive out there. I won't get involved until he tells me I need to.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. yeah, I think that's it for the items that I had. So I think Grace has minutes and financials.
Yeah. So we have one set of minutes to approve. Last meeting, June 28th. I sent them out about a week ago. And I didn't receive any suggested edits, but Mary did look it over.
You want a motion to approve them?
Sure.
All right, so moved.
Second.
Why don't we do a voice?
I'm in favor.
Sandy,
Mike.
yes.
Tom, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Mike,
David, aye.
Mike, do you want to handle this until Chris gets back?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't have the agenda in front of me, however. There was a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes.
And we approved it, so we can, what's, Grace, do you have anything else administratively for us?
Yep, I have a report. My screen still is not sharing for some reason, but the balance sheet should be at the end of the packet. There you go. I also prepared 2 vouchers, but I don't believe they're in the packet.
Oh yeah, I didn't get those in.
But the bills we have to pay are in the obligations section, which I normally don't include that, so I'm glad I did this time. We have a bill for the post office, certificate of mailing, and then I purchased more stamps. We had previously approved the annual dues for the Massachusetts Association of Schools. We're looking at a slightly different number this week because Mary and I added her membership as well as my membership. So that's where that number comes from. And then we also had an invoice come in for Koopmans. And then lastly, the Near Map subscription, which I've not received an invoice on.
I just wanted to make it clear that Koopman's expenditure is a fiscal year 23 expenditure.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, spending down the line. So, and I think we discussed that Near Map and the MACC membership were both supposed to be fiscal 24.
Yep.
Okay. I just want to be sure that we don't spend this year's money. We should spend it last year.
And the other thing about Near Map is that I think, boy, making a lot of noise. I think I would suggest we pay that out of one of the wetland protection funds, not out of our general budget, since Mary uses it extensively. As we saw today, Mary uses it extensively for wetland regulation type purposes. So rather than wipe out half of our or a third of our discretionary budget, I'd suggest we take it out of one of the wetland funds.
And which expense are you referencing, Mike? Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
The Near Map.
The Near Map, okay.
Okay, so do you have a motion to pay these bills, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tom, aye.
Mike, aye.
Sandy, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay. All right. I don't have the agenda again, so what's next? Maybe land stewardship or open space?
From an open space perspective, all I have to report is that Upton, Westboro, SVT, and DCR are meeting tomorrow at 10 to walk a property in Westboro and Upton that the DCR is considering purchasing. I've talked about the Upton property several times before. It's that property behind Westboro, near Westboro Road. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Land stewardship.
We're trying to get some trail days in, but the weather is looking crappy this weekend, but we'll see what we can do. I believe that, Mike, have you ordered the sign for Warren Brook? Or if it hasn't been ordered, it will be?
Still working on it. There's a potential. I've been communicating with Doug Wisdom, the sign guy from West Coast, and there may be an issue with the availability of red cedar, Western red cedar, and he's looking into it. I do have an initial invoice from him around $1,600 for the sign and shipping. That number could go up if he can source some red cedar. I'd like to try to use red cedar. I think it looks good. Also, it's very durable. If we're going to pay this much for it,
nice.
I would hate to use something that's going to rot quickly.
Well, let's see how that goes.
Should have been a day or two, but I would expect it. If you can find it, it'll probably be a few $100, probably more than 16. But we'll see.
But aside from that, we're just doing what we're doing, and we'll probably be moving forward with getting something going with the Robertson Bridge. And there's also a bridge that needs replacing at Warren Brook. It's a fairly long bridge, but we're going to be cooperating with Bay State Trail Riders Association and New England Mountain Bike Association. So hopefully we'll be able to have a division of cost and labor on that one and make it a little more durable with more rot resistant wood. So
Marcella, that's the decking that needs to be replaced, right, at that one?
Well, we need to see what's under there.
That's true.
Yeah. We're not sure. So I just want to, leave the possibility open that we may be replacing more than just the decking. But I've been in touch with folks from Istra and NEMBA about that. So that's still in process, but it will be one of our many expenses.
Okay. Anything else for stewardship?
Not that I can think of.
And I think, again, I don't have the agenda from you, but next is probably all those ongoing items. Are there any that people want to, any particular items people want to discuss?
I would just say that for Dogwood Drive, Joe did reach out to ask if we'd heard from the attorney, which we haven't. So I think maybe he'll be following up with them, hopefully, since it's been a while.
Okay. Anything else for ongoing items?
And Mary, regarding Dogwood Drive, we've been hearing from people who live in the area who want, to make sure they have access to the trail. Have they been giving us any more feedback, or are they just waiting like we are on news from the lawyers?
Yeah, and there's one person in particular that called the office, and I think he called right before my vacation, and so I told him I would try to get back to him when I got back. And he really wants, he's not talking about the 2 Dogwood section, he's talking about the section.
Oh, right. Yes.
Around 7, I think, which is between, it's kind of that area. I think Selby had a name for it. It was his favorite part. Like it used to be like little pine trees in there or whatever. I'm trying to, so anyway, he wanted to know where the trail was because someone had yelled at him for being on their property.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we need to look at the map and walk over there and see. The last time I was there, it wasn't really clear where the trail was until you get down in there. And then there's a trail, but the access might be a little unclear, and it was marked for a while, but if it's not getting a lot of use, then it's could be grown in, or the markers may have been destroyed or moved or whatever happens to markers. But
there was also some speculation that he was interpreting the conservation bounds as the property bounds, which strikes me as likely. So at the very least, it may be helpful to send him an aerial.
Yeah.
So that he can see roughly where the property bounds would be. And I think that would help him a lot, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, he seemed like he was someone who wasn't very computer literate necessarily, so I'll see if I can figure out a way to help him.
Well,
Maybe he can.
It may not happen in the immediate future, but I will let you know if we plan a walk over there and just to take a look at it on the ground. And if we do, you can notify him and he can join us and point out what he's been doing, and we can try to figure it out with him.
Yeah.
Mary, was that Ken Fougier?
No, Stephen Earle.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he's someone else who lives on Plain Street pretty close.
Right. Well, Ken was a professor of computer science, so.
Oh, okay.
I had a laugh.
No excuses.
Okay, anything else for ongoing?
Mike already approved the meeting minutes?
We did, Chris. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back, Chris.
I know.
Fun.
I love Honeyview.
Well, I think we're at the point where motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Marcella, aye.
Aye.
Mike, aye.
David, aye.